Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Today we have a fresh set of revenge stories for you. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. And our first story. Act like the neighbor from hell and threaten my grandparents? Enjoy losing your job and house. A while back, my grandparents, who've lived in the same house for decades, got new neighbors. It was a wife and husband with 2 kids, and they seemed fairly nice. The husband spoke to my grandfather a few times when they were outside and seemed genuine. He said he was a correctional officer, so his hours were strange, and he may be coming and going at odd hours depending on his schedule. A few months later, they went on vacation and asked my grandfather to watch the house for them, make sure no one was lurking around or breaking in. A few days into their vacation, my grandfather heard their dog whining in the backyard, so he looked over the fence and found the dog tied up on about a 6-foot lead with no water around him. He couldn't get into the yard, so he called animal control, who came and took the dog. When the neighbors got home, the husband went ballistic. He hit my grandparents' door so hard, they thought it was going to break. He got in my grandfather's face and called him every ugly word he could come up with, and told him if he ever caught him outside on his own, he'd make him pay for making them lose their dog. It only escalated from there. In the middle of the night, someone took the large community dumpster from the back alley and threw it over the fence into my grandparents' pool. The kids threw eggs from their backyard all over my grandparents' back patio and house. Someone threw a grapefruit through my grandparents' window. The police were called every time, but said we couldn't prove who was doing it, and they weren't caught in the act, so there was nothing they could do. I'd had enough and started making calls up the ladder with the correctional institution. I spoke to the warden at his facility and was told that he would look into the issue. A few days later, he showed up again at my grandparents' house while I was there, going off again, and this time threatening to harm my grandfather again to teach me a lesson about trying to mess with his life. I went out the door to confront him, and he walked off and told me he wasn't going to hit me because he'd lose his job and I wasn't worth it, but proceeded to continue screaming and threatening me and my grandfather as he walked back to his house. This time, though, I was ready for the jerk, and I was recording everything from the moment he started slamming on the door. I called and spoke to the warden again and told him I had video evidence of the threats and this guy's just general volatile nature. A week later, 2 guys showed up at my grandparents' house and said they worked for the associate director of corrections. They sat down for over an hour with my grandparents and wanted to know every detail of events that happened, so they were told everything from the dog to the vandalism to the threats. I came over and showed them the video I'd taken, and we showed them copies of the police reports we'd filed. Apparently, this guy had an issue with his temper, among other things, and was here because he'd been told to take a transfer or be terminated from his previous facility, so they transferred here. He ended up losing his job, and his house was foreclosed on. My grandparents were given an order of protection. We never saw them again. They left in the middle of the night, not long after we met with the director people. Screw that guy. His wife, who swore at my grandfather and always glared at him, and their 2 kids, 17 and 14, who I know had a lot to do with the vandalism that was happening to my grandparents' house. Thankfully, all's well since they left, and they've since gotten new neighbors who are wonderful people and own a local restaurant. They've even brought food over to my grandparents a few times and are excellent neighbors. And our next story. Theft isn't victimless. And yes, I did take it personally. This was about 2 years ago while I was living at my buddy's place. His place wasn't in the best part of town, so theft happens all the time, and for the large part, most of these crimes are met with a sucks-to-be-you attitude from the police, who then create a report and forget anything happened entirely. Okay, so I wake up early on Thursday morning with a call from my roommate who was running to work at 5 a.m., and he explains the detached garage had been broken into. The thief broke in through the window and stole a bunch of stuff, with highlights being Milwaukee drills, motorcycle jackets, and the receiver and sub from one of those surround sound systems in a box package deals, but leaves the speakers around the rest of the place. Saying I was livid is an understatement. I work hard for my things and have no intention of replacing them so some jerk can sell them for a very small profit. So for roughly the next 4 days, my focus is entirely on this, and you'll see why shortly. So I know the chances are slim that I'll ever find my stuff, but hey, it can't hurt to look for it on the common online sales places. I used eBay searching local sellers only. I put alerts on Craigslist, an extremely handy feature, and tell my roommate to keep an eye on Craigslist since he has a little time. So fast forward to Friday. My roommate calls me up and tells me he thinks he found our stuff on Craigslist. I pull up the ad, and sure as crap, there it is. This beautiful, not too bright gentleman had taken all the stuff he took from us and put it into a single ad in the barter section of Craigslist. He even added the model numbers, not serial numbers, making things very easy to identify. The giveaway was this cheap surround sound system for which he had only the receiver and the sub, and after a quick search reveals this particular system is only sold as a package. You can't buy the single components. So this was definitely our stuff. I call the police thinking case closed, but guess what? They don't care that I found this stuff on Craigslist, and after about 20 minutes of complaining on the phone with non-emergency, they ask me what they want them to do. I say, send a car over here. I want to speak with someone directly. So they reluctantly send a car with a very nice officer. She was nice. I'm sarcastic, but she really was nice. Anyway, she runs the number associated with the Craigslist ad, and guess what? He's got a rap sheet a mile long and has been arrested like 10 times for theft. With the break in the case, I think I'm home free. But nope, the cop can't do anything. The investigator needs to take care of this, she says, and leaves. So I call the investigator who doesn't work on Fridays. I ask who I can speak with so they can send me a message up the investigator's team line, to which no one answers at all. I try again on Saturday and learn investigators don't work weekends at all, and I'd have to wait till Monday before I could talk to my investigator. Good thing crime doesn't happen on weekends. Otherwise, cop weekends would be in trouble. So I call on Monday, and Sergeant Drags His Feet is out sick. It was at that point I was done trying to call them. I drove to the police station and demanded to speak with an investigator. I mentioned to this new investigator the situation and the name of the guy who was in the Craigslist ad, and the cop knows him very well and has arrested him on a couple of occasions. The cop is confident the police can now help me since I've already done all the dang work here. Finally, the cops tell me to make a meeting with this guy and let him know when and where. So again, the work's on me. And to meet this guy. Thanks, police. So I text him a few times with no response, then I call him and joke around and express interest in a variety of items, most of which are mine, but a few that aren't. Since simply asking for the things from one of the victims is suspicious in my mind, so I tell him I'm Christmas shopping. I then say I'm from out of the area and ask him to pick the location. He lists off a few places, one of which is a grocery store within eyesight of the police station, so I pick that and laugh to myself at how this is turning out. I call the cops, let them know the deal is on and when and where it is. They say they'll be in an unmarked car and that I should take my wallet out as a sign to swoop in and make the arrest. So I pull into the parking lot. I see no cops. I stop and wait. I think the guy's a no-show when he finally shows 10 minutes late. My heart's pounding at this point. I get out, meet the mastermind criminal, and shake his hand. He proceeds to pull out my stereo, then my drills, and a few other odds and ends, and before I can get my wallet out, a gold Taurus speeds in, and out pops 3 cops with guns drawn and cuff the guy. When this happened, I just turned around and walked away for a second while they put him in the car. The lead cop asks me if this is my stuff, and I say yes. It matches with the previously provided, very detailed description I gave the police. All the while, the guy in cuffs is yelling, "That's my stuff!" Finally, the cops get the warrant for his apartment, find the rest of all of our stuff and a few other people's things, and I have all my stuff back by Wednesday, the following week. He received 1.5 years in a state penitentiary for his efforts. I kind of fixate sometimes, and he got unlucky by stealing from someone who didn't just claim renter's insurance. Advice: record the serial numbers on everything you own. Cell phone, computer, TV, router, stereo, etc. If you can give that to the police, you have a stronger chance of getting your stuff back. Pawn shops need to report all serial numbers that come through. And our last story. Steal a phone from our store? We'll take your car instead. So this wasn't me, but happened at one of the retail cell phone stores I manage a few hours ago. We put out demo phones for customers to play with. The funny thing about these phones is that they're locked, cannot be used, have no real value. From time to time, a dumb thief will come in the store and take one of these phones. Today was one of those times. This particular store is usually slow, so having 1 or 2 employees working at a time is normal. Today, one was at lunch, so only 1 employee was in the store. In walk 2 guys. One guy is engaging with the employee, asking questions, acting like an interested buyer. The second is looking at the demo phones, but in reality is taking it off the security stand. The employee notices the guy has removed the demo phone from the security device and turns to look at him. The thief makes a run towards the door, and unbelievably, the employee tackles the thief. The two roll around, exchanging blows outside the store. It was a completely crazy scene. The good part about all this is that the thief got away with the phone. But in the process of wrestling with the employee, he dropped his car keys out of his pocket. The employee picked up the car keys and went inside the store, locked the door, and called police. To keep a longer story short, the cops came and towed the thief's 2016 Honda Accord. So he got a play phone that's as good as worthless and lost a good car. Also, the cops were easily able to identify the thief and put a warrant out for his arrest. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.